My name is Katie DeMeo. I'm with AIM Consulting. I'm here to facilitate this community meeting here tonight. I want to welcome you all to the East Blithedale Rehabilitation Project and the East Blithedale Pipeline Replacement Project community meeting update. We're really excited that you all were able to join us tonight. I'm going to take you through a brief orientation. As you can see, you're going to be remained muted during the entire presentation. This is to limit the background noise and to make sure that we can get through the presentation as much as possible. If you have any questions, there is a toolbox or a toolbar right in your Zoom. If you hover over the question and answer, a place that says Q&A, you'll have a space to be able to ask questions. You can ask questions throughout the entirety of the presentation. We've left about 20 to 25 minutes at the end of the presentation to go through as many of the questions as possible. We know that that's why we are here tonight. Any questions that we do not get to or any questions that we don't have the answer to tonight will be part of this meeting summary and posted to our website within a week. The website address is here. And again, there'll be more places. We'll put it in the chat, as well as there's going to be a place where you'll find all the contact information at the end of the presentation. So next, I want to get through to the community, the agenda here tonight and what we're here to talk about. So as you know, I'm doing some welcome and introductions now. We're going to do some project overviews of both the East Blithedale and the water main project overview. We're going to talk about the construction impacts and some of the schedule that's out right now. We're going to talk about the community outreach that's been done so far, have a great question and answer session, and give you all the contact information that you might need to stay in touch with us. And with that, I'm very happy to announce our project team. That's most of them are on the call today. We have Ahmed Ali with the City of Mill Valley. We have been working with Jackie Graff and Tom Welsh, both the lieutenant with the police department and the deputy chief. With Mark Thomas, we have Dan Bloomquist. He's the project design manager. With Coastland Construction, we have construction manager Mike Janet and construction inspector Rob White. Again, my name is Katie DeMeo. We are working with the public outreach. We have John Santos, the general contractor for Agronaut Construction. Mark Cassaray with project manager from Marin Water. You'll hear from him in just a few. And we have Scott Gelati, Vice President of Mangori and Gelati Constructions. And before we get started here, I'm happy to turn the program over to Andrew Kostner, who will give a brief introduction.
Hi, everyone. Andrew Poster with the Department of Public Works. Katie, I can't start my video. It says it's locked, but start my video. I was just going to say hi. We're real excited that you guys have all joined us. We've got about 50 people online. We're really, as Katie mentioned earlier, we're really looking forward to hearing some of your questions. We've gotten some great suggestions over the last week or so that we've been doing this project. Ahmed and the team are ready to answer your questions and to present this. We had a little bit of a practice with City Council earlier this week where we presented the project and the construction logistics. So we have some lessons learned to share with you, and looking forward to hearing from you. Thank you, Katie.
All right, and just one last thing is that this meeting is going to be recording just because we are going to post it to the website within a week so that anyone who is not able to make it with us tonight will be able to watch it as well as read our summary. So with that, I'm going to turn the program over to Ahmed.
Thank you, Katie. I appreciate it. I'd just like to give a quick background on the Blithedale. Since 2008, the pavement rehab is kind of well overdue for repair since the pavement program recommended that time a full overhaul of the roadway condition on Blithedale. And since then, we only did some kind of minor slurry rehab and some sewer work in 2014. And at that time, traffic was detoured also for the project to Miller and did a complete detour. So that's it. Next. The project in general is a Blithedale project. It's kind of designated to be a complete street. We kept that in mind. We use that as a principle. And the goal is to improve mobility for traveling in Blithedale corridor, provide safe and comfortable transportation system with more option for everyone, regardless of age, ability, ethnicity, income. And in general, it can pavement rehab, American Disability Act upgrade, new curb and gutter, sewer improvement, pedestrian, bicycle facility. The project kind of basically will provide ADA compliance ramp, as I said, and then rapid flashing beacon crosswalk, wider sidewalk, bike lane, street marking, extended curb, like a ball box similar to the downtown area, and then on a bike route. The phases, I'm sorry, I can go back again to talk about the phase. I apologize, I did not, I just want to talk about the limit. Yeah, as you see in blue is the first phase of the project, which was started last summer from Highway 101 to Amesita. All the underground work is completed, substantially is completed, and paving, we're looking at paving in mid-May, this mid-May and overnight in the evening hours. Second phase is going to be from Amesita to Elm, and the third phase Elm to Sunnyside. We also included Sunnyside pavement rehab from Miller to Blithedale, as well as Sycamore Avenue from Lagoma to Blithedale. So that's kind of the limit of the project. So go next. As you can see, the project is kind of basically almost like a 5 project included in one. And the first work that we see going right now in Blithedale is actually not a city project, but Marine Water District, who's been a great partner with us on this project. They are in the process of replacing the 100 years old water line in advance for our paving on the roads. So really appreciated that. They kind of gone through hoops to try to get the project going early before our project and get that going. So we appreciate that. And but they are kind of starting with our project and moving forward with that. In addition to that, PG&E is also a partner for this project and looking at doing some work right now, potentially, which is not confirmed yet. They'll be looking at doing some pipe replacement from Elm Street to Elm, from Elm to Elm, with the number of gas lateral services to be replaced. So we'll get more information on that soon. So each of these projects has its own complexity and some effort involved in that. But as far as the funding goes, we're grateful to City Council and TAM. They provide us a bunch of funding sources for the project. From TAM Measure A to the sewer fund to the recent bond refinance. And then we have also secured a couple of grants for Safe Route to School grants and Safe Improvement State grants, as well as the American Rescue Pandemic grants that the City Council designated for the Blithedale project. So the City Council is really putting a priority on that project and allocate a lot of resources to make sure it's a successful project. Next. The project, as I said, is in the phases in 2 and 3, and basically, as I said, is the AD compliance curb ramp, rapid flashing beacon, storm improvement, and curb and gutter, and that's involved in that. From that, I will give it on to Dan Blinkquist, who has been working up over a year now on our Blithedale project for Mark Thomas. He's a design engineer. Thank you, Dan, for maybe give people a little overview of what's going to be the final products. For that, appreciated. Okay.
Great, thank you, Ahmed. So what we're showing here is a small sample of really what the project involves. For the most part, the project is really at its core a roadway rehabilitation project, and basically what's there is going to be going back is going to be reconstructed in order to, again extend the service life of the roadway, and then provide the associated changes to ADA curb ramps and drainage, and repair any damaged curb gutter and sidewalk that's evident along the corridor. But in addition to that, we were able to obtain a grant through the Highway Safety Improvement Program with Caltrans, and that's provided some funding to do some additional improvements along the corridor at some of the unsignalized pedestrian crossings. And this is showing us several of those locations that are part of that improvement process in the downtown vicinity. First and foremost, there would be intersection with bulb outs and new rectangular rapid flashing beacons, essentially flashing light warning systems for the pedestrians crossing at Sunnyside. Similarly, we would have those same improvements going in at the Mountain View intersection and at the Dell intersection. There's a couple other locations further to the east on the corridor where we're actually looking at bulb outs as well at Thalia, at Catalpa, and at the Hillarita Mesa intersection. In addition to that, we are making some improvements for bikes that are part of this plan currently approved. That includes the installation of sharrows, which are shared use lane markings that show the usage of bikes in the travel lane. Not a dedicated bicycle facility, but what bicycle facility shared between vehicles and bikes between Sunnyside to the existing signed bike route on Sycamore Avenue. And as part of this, we would provide some additional guidance signs at the intersections of Sycamore and Millwood to help guide bicyclists to their destinations. Thank you. Go ahead and go to the next slide if you want.
Okay, thank you, Dan and Ahmed. Hi, everyone. Happy to be here. Mark Casray, Marin Water Engineering Manager. I'll be touching base on our water component of this overall road rehabilitation project. Starting with the scope, we'll be replacing approximately a mile of 8-inch water main between Millwood and Camino Alto. In addition, we'll be replacing about 100 water services, 50 valves, and we will renew 6 fire hydrants as well. So the benefits of this project are essentially twofold. As Ahmed mentioned, Marin Water prioritized this Blithedale pipeline rehabilitation project ahead of our capital program in order to replace the pipeline prior to Mill Valley's paving project. And the benefit here is that the community will be able to realize the advantage of new underground infrastructure as well as a brand new roadway system. The second benefit is the original pipeline was installed in 1921, over 100 years ago. And so the new pipeline will be seismically resilient and more reliable for decades to come. So the timeline of the water work is anticipated to go through August, pushing towards September. We're currently in between Amasita and Camino Alto, and we're traversing westbound towards downtown. And with that, I'll hand it off to Mike Janet, construction manager, who will speak to some construction impacts and traffic management, as well as the overall construction schedule.
All right, good evening, and thanks again for joining us. Really appreciate your time. I know it's valuable. The impacts of this project, obviously, you guys have seen the traffic delays. There's a ton of traffic that regularly travels to and from downtown Mill Valley, and we recognize that. The traffic delays are expected throughout the city during construction. The working hours are 8 to 5, Monday through Friday. While the delays are getting somewhat shorter as the detour route is becoming better known by the public, it really depends on the time of travel. And we appreciate you guys trying to work your schedule around those delays. Possible solutions to further reduce travel time will continue to be evaluated by our team. Another impact that you'll see is parking restrictions. Street parking will be restricted at times to facilitate construction activities, traffic control and detours, and no parking signage posted at least 72 hours in advance. Please know that we understand that parking is limited in Mill Valley. The streets are skinny, and we'll only be posting no parking signs when absolutely necessary to get the work done and for safety reasons. Minor water service interruptions, the potential for short-term water interruptions as homes and businesses are transferred from old water services to the new. These interruptions are generally very short. We try to make sure that they're as short as possible. You'll be notified well in advance of those. Please let us know if you need special accommodations when you get the notice so that we can make sure that we talk to you and do the best we can to accommodate. And then other impacts, noise. Noise is the main reason why we're doing this most of this project during the day. We are trying to do some of the project at night, being that the paving, which is probably the quietest thing that we do throughout the whole project. But we do understand that the noise impacts the community. Dust is another one. Our contractor is doing his absolute best to keep dust to a minimum, but there is going to be dust during the construction, and especially during windy days, we'll see an uptick in that. Pedestrian detours, the path of travel for pedestrians is open at least at one side of the road at all times to make sure that there's safe passage throughout the project sites. And then the bus detours, we're very, very thankful to Golden Gate Transit and Marin Transit worked with us to detour their buses and to reroute pedestrian to the next closest bus stop and put out service alerts and put up notifications. So we thank them very, very much. Addressing traffic and noise impacts during construction. So one thing we've done is we've designated a portion of Boyle Park for construction staging. So the contractor has a close by staging area centrally located on the project. To the right in Boyle Park as you come off Blithedale, we're talking about temporarily adding parking on Talia Street and putting up signs to direct the public to the parking, as we know that Boyle Park is a very well used park, and everybody really enjoys that area. We've talked about expanding daytime lane closures when school is out for the summer. Obviously, we want to take advantage of school being out and not disrupting the school when we can. So we're working with our contractors to make sure we utilize that to the extent possible. As I talked about, night work is going to be done where feasible, with the lower noise impacts with paving. And another couple ways we did reduce noise impacts is we restrict loud activities, trying to get jackhammering done first thing in the morning as much to the extent possible, to try to make sure that it's not disruptive all the way throughout the day. We're using low impact vehicle alarms when our equipment is backing up. That still keeps us a safety factor there, but it does not travel like the typical alarms. And we are reducing sound from our equipment, just making sure that all the equipment maintenance is up, that the mufflers are appropriate, that everything is within specifications on the job site. This is the general detour plan. If you live in Mill Valley, you're probably pretty familiar with it at this point. Again, while we understand that there's a lot of traffic that goes through this area, especially during morning and afternoon commute, we ask that you please be aware of this and try to follow it to the extent possible. There is local access, as you see, on each end of Sycamore for the residents to get in and out and make sure that you have access to your homes. The traffic management plan. Local residents within the closed roadway section are allowed within the local access area, along with garbage trucks, mail, emergency vehicles, and they are allowed on East Blithedale. The detour, most of the traffic will have to take is Camino Alto to Miller to access downtown, Cascade Canyon, Homestead, Mill Valley Heights, and the library area. Residents of the Sycamore Triangle, Kite Hill, we switched. Kite Hill, the golf course area, a detour via Camino Alto and Sycamore to access their destinations. And just to touch base on some of the things we did is we retained a consultant traffic engineer to monitor and adjust traffic signal timing all the way throughout the detour, including the traffic signal near 101 to make sure that the timing all lined up to the extent possible to keep traffic moving throughout East Blithedale and Camino Alto and Miller Avenue. Here's a overview of our construction schedule. As we talked about, MMWD has started to work on their water line replacement, and Argonaut is working on Sycamore Avenue and will be working on Sunnyside. And then the East Blithedale paving phase 1 from 101 to Amasita will happen mid-May. And then Sycamore Avenue paving and Sunnyside Avenue paving will follow that. And then June through September, East Blithedale sewer repair and Amasita Avenue to Sunnyside Avenue will continue. And then the concrete improvements on Sunnyside and Amasita will follow that, followed by a goal of paving Sunnyside to Amasita in spring of 2023. Now, keep in mind, this is based on our contractor schedule, and that's without any delays or any unknowns in this point. And we also, as we spoke about before, that Ahmed touched on, we don't know exactly what PG&E's schedule is for that gas main replacement or what their actual plan is to this point. So that could add a little bit of time to our schedule. With that, I'll go ahead and hand it back to Ahmed.
Thank you,
Thank
Mike.
you. Ahmed, before you start, we just got a comment that it's a little hard to hear you. So if you can get a little bit closer to the computer, and
Sure.
that would be great. Thank you so much.
Gotta raise the volume. I have a kind of allergy, sore throat, so I'll try to raise my voice a lot. Thank you. Thank you, Mike. That was great. For the community outreach, obviously we have quite extensive outreach program going on, and that includes kind of bi-weekly project kind of status and schedule update. We try to provide all this information to the public. And then we have been also participating in attending the Safe Route to School group meetings and the Bicycle Pedestrian Advisory Committee. Those meetings can be following on the past couple of years and kind of get people updated on what's going on with the project. Myself and the construction manager team will be meeting with the Park School, continue meeting with them. I think he's in contact with them pretty much regularly, and was a principal and with the Mill Valley District Maintenance Operations Supervisor to kind of coordinate with them all the impact on the access to school and the pickup and the drop off of the kids. We realize is kind of critical. And we're asking that schools kind of update the parents through the district parent portal. So they've been very helpful working with us on that. The project team that we have for Mill Valley, it's actually include the fire department and the police department and maintenance operation. And we kind of meet as a team weekly, coordinating all our outreach activity, make sure that outreach effort are all providing accurate information to the public and putting whatever going on social media, they're reflecting accurate information. And any signage or something, additional signage or more additional information for the public will be able to respond on that. In addition to that, there's also, we have the project hotline that I'm talking about it later, and the contact information, and then door hanger. Coastland and our construction manager team have actually been meeting and walking up and down the project to meet the businesses and residents, give them their cards. So you probably see him and you might have met with him. Please stay in contact with them. They'll probably their best resource for you. If you ever need to schedule a meeting with them, or if you have any concern, they'll be happy to address it and meet you on site and try to address any issue that you may have. In addition to that, of course, Marin Water District also doing some outreach effort on that. So that's going to working pretty good. Next. These are just a sample of our key stakeholders that have been coordinating over them for a while now, from the Mill Valley Recreation, of course, because they have the use of the ballpark and the golf course and the community center, the schools, a different kind of school. We've been kind of working closely with them as a main stakeholder, and all the different transit agency, for example, that buses have been working on the route for traffic. So these are the key stakeholders that are kind of working and coordinating with them throughout the project. Next. So the call line, we have a great hotline. Katie and her team really set up a wonderful phone number for people to call. And it's actually a live person. It's not a recording during the work hours. So try to use that phone, and they log that information and process it and forward it to whoever can respond to that. Of course, and we did a summary of that call so far, and obviously you all know that the top things that comes up, of course, is traffic congestion and delay, and then access to school and all this stuff. So that's kind of that. Last thing we're going to do is lesson learned. Obviously, quite a lesson as we go move forward, and we continue learning lessons. What's working and what's not working, and whatever need adjustment. We're flexible. We're open to make any adjustment to our condition of the field, our outreach, our effort, anything we can do to make adjustment alleviate or ease the impact of construction that's going to go on for a while for that. For example, like Park School drop off and pick up, we're working through the school right now, try to reach the parents and then the school principal will be reaching the parents to what's the best route and what's the best time for drop off and pick up. One of the things we're looking at is evaluating the option for temporary one-way routes on the street next to Park School, Elm, and on Catalpa. So we're evaluating that, and we'll be discussing that with the school as the construction gets closer to the school. The impact, in the next few weeks, probably be more noticeable. So we're going to be looking at working with the school on some kind of mitigation for that. As far as the side street, obviously we expected that. Of course, not a surprise. The side street next to Blithedale, where the construction going, has been impacted. We're well aware of that, and we are working try to maybe add more signage. We've been adding the local access only, and we're adding some more. Try to restrict the local traffic adjacent to those neighborhood. We also made an adjustment, added some. Excuse me. Not a through street signs for some of the streets that some of the people come through, they're not familiar with the neighborhood. Excuse me. So we added some of the street, I believe Valley is kind of circle around. So we put not a through street to make sure people are aware. Okay, don't go down there to the end. So we'll try to help with that. The intent is the vast majority of motors to keep them out of the Sycamore Triangle. Then they don't use the shortcut. We try to kind of alleviate that and direct them to stay on Miller as much as possible. So for anybody who live off Sycamore, north of Blithedale, or in the Gulf Coast, like Mike was saying, please try to urge you to stay on off Sycamore and stay on Miller and Camino Alto if it's all possible. Folks continue having delay on Sycamore, and they'll kind of eventually all that be moving on to Miller. So again, as I said, we're asking everybody to stay on Camino Alto and Miller to allow the local residents to be able to access their homes and get out of the driveway in those narrow streets adjacent in the Sycamore Triangle and the other area next to Blithedale. We've been working with PD, and PD has a limited resources. We can't expect them to provide a lot, but they have been helpful, and you probably notice them. Sometimes, as much as possible, they kind of provide us with patrol and the monitoring the projects. And right now we've got complaints about Miller, because Miller now getting heavier traffic. So we get complaints about Miller traffic wise. So we're asking to help us monitoring the traffic on Miller, and because of the increase of the volume. On top of that, as Mike said, we actually contracted out with on-call traffic engineer, Dave Parisi, to kind of look at our traffic control plans. We consulting with Kimley Horn, who's a traffic consultant, with Brian Sauer, who is managing traffic signal. Try to work on the traffic signal operation itself, adjust the timing on that, different time of the day. So they've been out kind of monitoring and trying to see what the best we can do to change the timing. And they did actually some adjustment to the signal timing. You probably don't notice it, but there'll be some kind of improvement on the signal timing on that. But we're doing our best. We're trying to do more. We constantly kind of adjusting and monitoring as feasible as possible. Finally is the project contact information. Let me get to that. The next one, I think it's the next slide, Katie.
Sure. I mean, yeah, we're gonna do it
Yeah.
after the question and answer. And again, we'll go back to this. But before we move on to the question and answer, and before we go on, I want to go back to this slide and address some of these questions. And maybe Mike, you can come in and help us address just these 4 questions off the bat to start the question and answer session on, so that we can all, because these are the main questions that are coming in. So can we talk about why we can't start later or end earlier to accommodate school drop-offs?
Absolutely, and thanks for bringing that up, because I was going to say we need to touch on this a little bit more. The big issue that we're having right now is that our contractor is working with their suppliers, and those suppliers have very limited hours. And so we have to utilize the suppliers when they are open for rock and material and asphalt. And so we looked at that possibility at the beginning, and we still continue to see if it's feasible, if there's something that we can work out with them. But up to this point, it has not been successful. And the reason that it's not successful is if we limit those hours, then we limit the contractor's hours even further, and then the project timeline extends significantly. So we certainly are working on that. But so far, we haven't had a great solution to that at this point. And there's only one supplier in the area, so that limits us as well. Is night work an option? I talked about the noise and what this creates, and I'm pretty certain that everybody like me enjoys a good night's sleep to whenever it's possible. And you guys know the huge tractors and the tracked equipment and everything else makes a lot of noise. The night work, where it was an option, where the noise can be somewhat limited, is going to proceed in that manner.
And that's wonderful. We are getting a couple of comments in our question and answer session about people who live in the area who understand that the daytime is stressful and does cause traffic, but nighttime would be almost unimaginable for them living in where their houses are. So I'm sure that they're glad to hear that. Thanks, Mike.
Absolutely. How we can keep kids safe walking and biking on our streets is really to follow the detours. Please ask your kids to make sure that they're following the signs for the sidewalks that are closed, because every single sidewalk that's closed has a detour route posted. And our guys are watching out for them to the extent possible. And we really want to focus, make sure our kids are staying safe. So if there are issues in a specific area, please bring them up, and we will bring them up to the contractor. We will look at those and make sure that we're making sure that they can have a safe route to where they're going. And how do we stop people from using side streets as an alternative? Well, we've talked to PD about this. We are continuing, like Ahmed said, to add signs. PD really is having issues enforcing this. It would be a huge effort to determine who belongs on the side streets and who doesn't. But we continue to talk to them, and we're trying to come up with ideas on how to further, stop the people trying to use the side streets as cut throughs.
Yeah, we'll continue, Mike. We'll continue to do some kind of outreach more in our Mill Valley Connect newsletter to kind of remind people, please do not use the side street, do not use this area. As I said, maybe a larger sign in the street or something like that. We're evaluating some more outreach information effort to people to encourage them to not to use that as a shortcut through the Sycamore area and Triangle in that area.
Wonderful. All right. And so with that, we have about 20 questions so far in our question and answer box. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to leave the slide presentation up just in case if there's any questions about the maps or anything, any slides that we want to refer to. But for now, I'm going to go through the questions and try and get someone from the project team to try and answer it as best as we can. So Valerie asked, it seems like road work was suspended today. The cones were up at Camino. So how can we tell if Blithedale is open or not? Mike?
I could take this one.
Or Mark, perfect.
Yeah, so Blithedale was open today because of forecasted rain. When there's a chance of rain, we contractors can't procure materials because of issues with the stormwater quality. So they don't work when there's forecasted rain, or they don't work always when it's raining heavily. So that's why we saw Blithedale to be open, and really it's the signage that will indicate and the cones that will indicate when Blithedale is closed.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah, well, I think that can probably answer that question. So
great.
Right. I think, Mark, I think we can try to do maybe as best as we can, maybe on the message boards on the changeable message sign. Maybe if we can, if we know the next couple of days is going to be no work, maybe put something on the message because it's changeable. So we can actually add message to say, yeah, rain stoppage or something for tomorrow or something like that. And, yeah, maybe we can evaluate them, look at it. That'd be helpful so people know that the next day then there'll be no work or something like that.
Okay, great. Thanks,
Ahmed. Thank you.
All right. The next question comes from Karen. Would you consider putting in a temporary light at Lagoma Miller intersection? Traffic is really backing up, and I think a light there would help a lot. And again, this might just be a consideration.
Yeah, I'm not sure if she meant traffic signal light or I'm presuming she meant signal lighting.
I think a temporary signal light is what she's talking about.
Okay. Yeah, that's something that, of course, is not in the scope of that project, and it's something that's not that simple, and it has to be warranted too, whether it's warranted or not.
Yeah,
But,
not in the
yeah,
scope at this
already
time.
answered the question, so.
Yeah. So we had an anonymous question is, has phase 1 been finished? It looks like the paving's not finished. So I know we addressed this, but can we talk about the schedule about when we can expect phase 1 to close and what that paving looks like?
Yeah, absolutely, Katie. I'll touch on that real quick. So phase 1 paving is going to start, like we talked about, mid-May, and it's going to run through around the end of May. It's a few weeks of paving with getting prepped for the paving and the different courses to make sure that the roadway lasts a long time. That Daniel Bloomquist and Mark Thomas did a great job at engineering a roadway that's going to last for a very, very, very long time. And so the reason why you see phase 1 not completed after the underground is simply because we didn't have the temperatures to allow for asphalt to cure properly. And if we went ahead and paved it, it wouldn't have lasted. And so we had to wait for favorable temperatures to allow paving to still get moving forward again. That's why we're starting back up in May.
Got it.
Yeah, I think what the temperature for nighttime, that has to be kind of over 55 degrees. That's typical. And we're looking about 3 to 4 weeks, Mike, right, for raising iron and paving. So expect around mid-May, it's going to go about 3 to 4 weeks on nighttime paving, grinding, and paving asphalt.
Right.
All right.
Including striping and everything like that. You're correct.
Excellent. And Susan had a little follow-up question about the specifics on the phase 1. Do you know what the hours are going to be for the construction for that overnight paving? And again, any noise mitigation?
So the same, we're going to be watching. We have monitors to make sure that the noise is taken care of, that none of the equipment's making beyond what the specifications say for the noise. So we'll be monitoring the equipment and making sure it's in good working order. And again, yeah, the paving isn't quiet, but it certainly isn't anything as noisy as what we're doing during the day. Katie, what was the other part of the question? I'm sorry.
The hours.
Yeah, any hours?
Yeah, so
Yeah.
we're still working with our contractor to determine the final hours, but it's probably going to be around 7 at night to 6 in the morning, or 8 at night to 6 in the morning. And we're going to work as long as we can during that stretch to make sure that we get as much done, and we can shorten up those shifts and the duration of how many days it takes.
Wonderful. And I think you addressed, Jerry had asked a question about, he understood that phase 1 paving had slipped by about 2 or 3 months. You addressed kind of some of those issues. Any other anticipations of any other slippings or any other work overlapping that's unexpected beyond the weather?
So in reality, only by a few days it could be pushed off because MMWD's water main is actually in a portion of that, which they are working to get out of our paving area as quickly as possible. And they started there on purpose to do that. The rain days are really what's going to affect that by a few days here and there, just simply because they bump off our schedule. Like Mark said, we can't work because we're so close to the bay and we do not want to pollute our stormwater.
Makes sense. We're getting a few questions about why we can't put traffic controllers or why there can't be a traffic cop or a crossing guard at some of these places. Can we elaborate a little bit more about our talks to the police department, their ability to help us, or what some of those measures might look like?
I can certainly elaborate. We have talked to our contractor to see if that's an option. There's a couple issues there. Simply the liability issue of sticking somebody out there is a big one, and the contractor is very concerned about that. Secondly, putting a human life out there in the middle of live traffic, and that's something that is a safety concern for us as well. So we have decided that instead of doing that, we are having our traffic engineers, like we said, monitor or change the light timing, try to get, where we know backups are handling, to try to get that green light to stay on as long as possible to get traffic through those areas.
Yeah, it
One of
looks
the-
like Christine and Richard, sorry about that. A lot of people are talking about that Miller and Lagoma intersection. And so again, just to make sure that we're taking note, it's been mentioned a lot in the question and answers.
Will do. Thanks, Katie.
We're certainly looking into that as well. We recognize the impact of the Sycamore Triangle to the side streets, and we're looking into additional signage as folks have been requesting, but also outreach. I think outreach is going to be important to help solve some of these issues. Now, the project has really effectively only been going on for about a week. We've noticed folks traveling eastbound on Blithedale, not following the detour south along Millwood to then go to Miller to get to the highway. They're going through the soft closure on East Blithedale until they reach a hard closure and then simply go through the private neighborhoods, which is what
Correct.
we do not want. So we are trying to increase our outreach on that aspect and looking at ways to mitigate the Sycamore and the impact. So.
Okay, great. While we're talking about the Sycamore Triangle, some people talked about, again, the ongoing road and sidewalk construction within the triangle is really exacerbating the traffic disruption and congestion. They wondered, number one, can this work be delayed until East Blithedale is reopened? And then second, parked vehicles along those detoured routes are causing a lot of disruptions and delays. Is there any talks about eliminating any of the parking on one side of the street or any of the detour routes?
So as people know that live in those areas, the parking's already very, very limited, and we've taken some of it and already got comments back that it's just hard for the residents that live in that area, especially with as many people living or working from home now. So we are looking at that, and we are trying to keep routes open to the extent possible. But it is a challenge.
Okay.
And I think, Mike, just to clarify that, I think that right now they're doing concrete ramp on Sycamore. And that's about it until all the Blithedale closures complete. Is that correct, Mike? Something like that, right? So they won't be doing any paving.
Right. That section is fairly quick. You're absolutely correct. The paving is not going to immediately follow the ramp work, and so we're trying to get in and out of there as quickly as we possibly can.
Thank you.
And then schedule wise, I'll touch on that too. Our big concern is the school and getting our schedules to align with doing the work nearest the school during the summer break. And so we are pushing to get other work done so that we can really focus on that and try to make sure that we impact our kids the least possible.
Got it. We did get a question about how many people were on the call tonight. At the height, we had about 62 people. We're down to about 54 at this time. So Susan asks, why are not other utilities such as gas, sewer, electric, phone, all on underground while the water district has the trenches open?
I can answer that, or maybe Dan Blink was going to answer that. We've been in the past, this project been going on for more than a couple of years. Been in planning, and we already reached out to all the utility company, let them know about the project. And sorry. Can you hear me?
Yeah. So obviously, there is sewer work going on. There is the water work going on as part of the project. PG&E is lowering gas lines where necessary, where they're in conflict with the proposed roadway improvements. What the project is not able to do is underground existing overhead utilities. That comes from a separate pot of money, which there is no available for this effort right now.
Got it. Jerry asked if, do you want to?
If you don't mind, just two issues as well that make it challenging to do all of the utilities at the same time. One is an issue of construction logistics. You need to stage heavy equipment, backfill materials, sand. You need to move dump trucks and excavators and loaders in and out of the working zone. And so in order to do that, it's in a narrow corridor such as Blithedale, you simply cannot do that with multiple contractors. And then as well, it's an issue of liability as well. The closure is a closure that's managed by the insurance companies of the contractor that's doing the work. So really it's an issue of logistics that you just can't have that much work occurring in a narrow corridor at the same time, and then also liability.
Excellent. Susan just asked, if PGE doesn't underground electric lines, can they at least put a conduit down that can pull lines down in the future? Do we know?
No, they can't, because they have to
Ah.
kind of, yeah, we did reach out with them. We had several conversations with them about that, and that's not possible for their, from PG&E perspective.
Got it. I know we had another. Do we have any other idea of what PG, again, Jerry had asked that, do we have any more insight on PG&E's work and their impact on the schedule? Or do we just really not know of that yet?
We don't know that yet. As far as for now, they've been doing a pothole work, or they're about to schedule to do some more pothole work to evaluate their system, and they're working through the engineering right now to see, but they're only the only potential one that they're looking at is replacing a gas line and lateral from Elm to Elm. That's the one we know that is potentially could be work could be happening.
All right. So Kate asked, will residents be able to get into their residences throughout the day? If not, any way to monitor parking on side streets so that residents on East Blithedale can get in and out? Kate's having a really hard time getting in and out of her house.
Residents and businesses are provided ingress and egress to their properties at all times. You could expect a minor delay of a few minutes as the contractor needs to work to either install plates or move equipment out of the way. As construction approaches directly in the frontage of certain properties, they will hand out flyers to those properties to indicate the work that will be going on in front of their house and the best mechanisms for them to communicate with the contractors. The best recommendation we could provide to residents that need ingress and egress is just to communicate with the contractor. If you anticipate needing to leave your house, let's say at 1 p.m., for example, maybe go out if you can 5 to 10 minutes early and notify the contractors that are working in front. Hey, we're going to need to go in a few minutes. Can you help navigate that? And they will surely prioritize that.
That makes sense. Thank you so much. All right, we got a great question about in Tiburon and unincorporated Mill Valley. When the water pipes were being replaced, residents were offered a steeply discounted price to replace their lateral sewer pipes at the same time. This offer was made possible because the equipment and the trucks were already in the area. Is this going to be offered to Mill Valley residents for this project? Why or why not?
Okay, let's talk about sewer. I can answer that. It's the sewer part, which is about the water part. But the sewer part, we are, everybody probably received the letter. I'd leave that on. Is it good to leave it off?
Absolutely.
Yeah, we did. Everybody probably got my letters about the sewer. We are part of this project. The city's contributing quite a bit of money, about almost $1 million, to replace the lower lateral, the sewer laterals in the sidewalk area from the property line to the center, to the main street. For the one need replacement, need to put replacing it. The upper part of the sewer, that part of the property owner, that still be up to the homeowner. So we are providing quite a bit of saving to the homeowners by replacing the section that goes into the street from the sidewalk to the street.
Great, thank you. Do you plan, Christina and Richard also asked, do you plan to pause construction? We get this a lot to the hotline. Do you plan to pause construction and keep East Blithedale open during fire warnings to allow for evacuation if necessary? Again, we got a lot of calls to our hotlines worried about evacuations. And since we're moving into that season, this is a great question.
Right, absolutely. I mean, Mike can evaluate more, but I just want to say that yeah, we meet weekly with the fire chief, and he worked closely with the contractor. Our fire chief attend all the contractors' construction meetings, and he have a good relationship with the contractor, and you can invite him the notice, can let him know for evacuation, and especially we're also aware of red flag days, and the contractor is aware of it, and they have a plan to evacuate or to help the fire department on that. Mike, is that kind of correct what I'm saying?
So real quick, our overview right now is that if we do have a red flag day, we are going to talk to the fire department about the work that we have going on. We'll have plates and backfill material ready to go at our disposal to make sure that if something happens, that we can immediately get access the road back open. We've also talked to our contractors and had an agreement with them that they are going to help flag traffic out of Mill Valley to make sure that we'll have about 20 hands, available to direct traffic and to help traffic out of Mill Valley with a plan with the fire department. So we are in good shape there. And of course, if there is, a day that's extremely windy or something like that, we're going to take that into consideration. And if it is best for the community, and the fire department agrees, we will certainly consider shutting down the project if it's a safety issue.
And
Great.
one elaboration on that. That's an excellent point. Also, I saw some concerns of access for emergency vehicles. I just want to remind folks that emergency vehicles, fire, police, ambulance, they get priority immediately. All work stops and the contractors do everything in their power to immediately allow access.
Great. Thank you. And again, we've got about 5 to 10 minutes left in this question and answer session. Please put them in. We're happy to answer as many as we can. Jerry asked a quick question on why cyclists weren't listed as a stakeholder. They were listed under the motorists, pedestrians, and cyclists. We do trying to talk to as many people using as many different types of transportation through this area as well. So someone asked, how long will East Blithedale closure last? Is it October 2022 or October 2023? I think people are a bit confused.
Mike is going.
Anyone?
Oh, I can talk to that. So, the closure is really to facilitate the underground work that's currently happening with MMWD and the sewer work for the city of Mill Valley that Argonaut's coming in to do. And so, like Mark was saying on the schedule, and realistically, the closure is going to be right up to September, I should say through September. And we're working with both contractors to make sure that hopefully we can meet those deadlines. Again, it is underground construction and we will do our best to hit those deadlines as to the extent possible. And then again, when we do pave, as you guys saw on the schedule in the spring of 2023, at night, we will, because of the skinny road that we have to work with here and the big equipment that we have to bring in to remove the roadway and put it back, there will be some additional closures at that time. But everybody will be well notified in advance of when those things are happening. Now, again, because of the skinny road, there will be traffic control that's necessary when we per se do a pedestrian ramp and there's a concrete truck that we have to pour that ramp from. There are going to be delays and there are going to be the traffic controls in place during those areas. So just be aware of those as well. And please take your time when you go through the area and watch for delays and watch for things in the roadway, because watch for flaggers, please.
Speaking of flaggers, we have a couple of questions in here talking about, that reminders and outreach are great, but in the end of the day, people might be just ignoring some of the signs and still going through. Is there anything that we can do on the enforcement side? They said maybe perhaps local residents would be willing to monitor, check IDs. I know we've talked about having flag people out there, talking to the police. Can we talk a little bit about how tough it is? Again, I think we all know how tough it is to enforce that, but what some of our options might be.
We have been talking to PD, Jack Craft. I think we've been talking on that. It's impossible to enforce, with the local actions there. But as I said, we're going to evaluate any other suggestion, and we're welcome to receive any. I think we got some tips and suggestion from some of the residents. So any kind of idea you have, we're welcome to look into it and evaluate it.
Okay. Can we talk a little bit more about the night work, when it might be happening, what the hours are, and maybe some of the scope of what they'll be finishing over at night? We have a few concerns about, again, as concerns with during the day, concerns at night as well. A little bit more details about the night work would be great.
thought we did. I think Mike did it again.
Yeah, I think just to follow up with that again, the night work for paving is basically what we're looking for or looking at, guys. And it's a huge amount of trucks and a huge amount of equipment that has to facilitate that. So phase one, just be aware of night work from about the middle of May, continuing 3 to 4 weeks. As Ahmed alluded to, and then in the spring of 2023, when we come back and do the remainder of the paving and get remove the old asphalt and go put new asphalt, that will be another stretch of that. And again, everybody will be notified well in advance of that, and all the details will be on the notifications, and contact information again will be on those notifications.
Will there be a detour? Is there a detour for that night phase as well? And that will be communicated through that as well? Absolutely.
Yeah, any traffic stuff, it will certainly be communicated as well.
That's important to know is again, on the website, you can sign up for these bi-monthly, again, 2 times a month. We're going to be sending out updates to the public, letting you know where the construction's been, where it's going, updated detour plans, and things to know about the area. So getting onto that list, you can visit the website right here on the screen right here. Signing up for that list will be crucial. All right, we can just take a few more questions here. Are there any incentives to the contractors for finishing work early?
Go ahead, Mark.
Sorry, Mike. Okay, on the marine water side, we don't currently have an incentive, but I can assure you that we are all incentivized to minimize impact to the community and complete our work as quickly as possible. We are doing everything in our power with our resources that we have to finish as quickly as possible, and we're getting there. So I'm hopeful.
And just to add to what Mark said, there's not incentives, but there certainly is disincentives if they run over the allotted amount of time. And the contractors certainly don't want to be paying us those, and don't want to get their bonding company involved. So they definitely have incentives to finish on time.
Great. All right, we got about 2 more questions. We did get a comment today just for us to note that it looks like the highway signs didn't match. The highway signs today were still saying that Blithedale was closed, which was a bit of a mixed messaging since it was open. So again, as we figure out the start of this construction, just to make sure all of our messaging is the same. Susan asked that she heard that parking would be eliminated on East Blithedale to allow for a bike lane. Is that true?
No, we have been working with the bike group. We just had a meeting with them today. Dan Blink was in a bunch of group was looking at our design, the bike design that we have, and we had a pretty good meeting with them. Dan, you want to update them on that pretty quickly? Just I don't think there's anything new change on the design, pretty minor modification.
No, we're not actually looking at a design now that adds a bike lane anywhere on this stretch of Blithedale that would have wholesale impacts to parking. There are some considerations for a couple of parking spots that may be impacted for a striped shoulder in the vicinity between Talia and Carmelita. There's a couple of very narrow places where parking is allowed on Blithedale, and we are still evaluating whether or not we're going to do anything that's going to impact those spaces.
Correct.
Okay, it looks like we have one last question. Does it make sense to consider a temporary moratorium or a new construction permits for private residences to alleviate added congestion of work trucks through the affected neighborhoods? Great general question to end with.
Yeah, I know. Well, thank you for the question, but obviously we're the wrong group to ask that question. So we're going to have to kind of forward that to the planning department at Mill Valley regarding that public work. We just try to take care of our infrastructure and get the project going, but we don't have the answer to that. So.
Wonderful. Well, again, I just want to thank everybody for their participation here tonight. As I said, we had over 60 community members here today. We have heard your concerns. Again, we are monitoring this chat. We're monitoring our emails, trying to get back to you as fast as we can. Please, again, yes, Ahmed.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure. I'm sorry. I just want to remind people, please use the phone number or the email that's shown on the East Blithedale @gmail.com. This is the fastest way to get a response back because they monitored it, Ames group monitored it and directed to the right person for that. So either the phone number or the email that you see on the 24/7 information is actually the fastest way to respond. We'll be happy to answer the other one too, but it'll probably take a while for us to get back to you from the other email that you have. But I just want to bring that up and remind people of that. So.
Absolutely. And again, we're going to be pushing out updates on our website, on social media, via our bi-monthly updates. And so please reach out to us. Let us know how we can stay in contact with you. And we're happy to help. So again, I want to thank everybody for their participation. Thank our panelists for their education here tonight. And again, thank you. And I look forward to hearing from you all soon. Have a great night.
Thanks,
Thank
Katie.
you. Thank you, everybody. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Katie. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys. See you there.